Well, hi there. Wanted to make a hockey video, and I needed a topic, and it appears that yesterday there was one to talk about. The passing of Ray Emery. I made it a point to listen to what Shannon had to say, the hockey guy on YouTube. He was mostly complimenting Ray Emery and talking about his some of his achievements and saying that he was a good goaltender, and he helped lead the Ottawa Senators to the Stanley Cup final, and he put up decent stats, and you know, he had a bit of a troubled career, not only with injuries but with personal issues, and that he had passed when he drowned in the Ontario Harbor. Now, there are two videos when you do the Google search on it that show up. There's one from Sportsnet and there's one from CTV. I know these types of videos that I make are wildly unpopular, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I do not believe Ray Emery is really dead. I think he just wanted to get away from it all. He made a lot of money. He didn't live up to the hype that somehow he thought he had earned. His statistics were not good. He was never a good goaltender. When he was on the Ottawa Senators, I remember Ottawa shut out the Buffalo Sabres. And this was a big deal because Thomas Vanek and Chris Drury were on the team at the time, and it was, I believe, a high offense Buffalo Sabres team at the time. Anyway, they got 15 shots on goal, 15, and Ray Emery was elected #1 star. And even Don Cherry turned around and said he only had 15 shots on him. And it's the truth, he only had 15. That's not what you call a goalie who had to work very hard. And he goes into the NHL and he's got such an ego, like you wouldn't even believe. And you know, actually from CTV they were saying that in the beginning, you know, he wasn't sure what career he wanted to do because, you know, he was interested in basketball, baseball, golf, etc. And you know, that's all good and well, but the fact that they make mention of that may say something else. It may say he just wanted an in on a sports organization and there was an opportunity within the NHL. That's a possibility. And you know, for a lot of money, there are a lot of people who will play a sport that you know, wasn't their first choice. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened with Ray Emery, but I would believe that if I saw plausible evidence. I'm just naming it as a suggestion. Because he did make an awful lot of money playing in the NHL, and you know, he was a mediocre goalie at best. And after he left Ottawa, like Shannon was trying to say, oh well, he did well there and a little bit well there, but injuries were holding him back. No, he didn't. And as far as the Stanley Cup and him hoisting it and bringing it back to Hamilton, he wasn't the starter goalie. Corey Crawford was the starter goaltender on a very good Chicago Blackhawk team. So, you know, that's like a scratch player taking credit for something that they didn't particularly earn themselves. And I mean, you also got to get into the other subjects of it. Obviously, this is a racial thing because there aren't that many black people in the NHL. There just isn't. Whether people think it's fair or unfair, it's just the reality of it. Actually, to tell you the truth, black men have extremely hard time ice skating. They just do. I mean, not that Ray Emery's totally black anyway. He's got some white in him, or did anyway. Anyway, I think he ran away. I think this was his out, and he was like Roy Halladay. I honestly don't believe Roy Halladay is dead either. Now, I know people are going to come out of the woodwork and, you know, get mad at my face about it, but that's just them covering for the story, the narrative that they want to tell. And maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. I ain't seen no evidence to confirm that. But there's plenty of evidence in, you know, the subculture that suggests that sometimes famous people, they just had enough and they leave. And that totally makes sense. And I believe that's what Ray Emery do. He had no chance of returning to the NHL for reals. Like, his skill level was never there. Everyone was sick of his attitude at this point. And, you know, there was no chance of it. And, you know, it was said he had a lot of anger management issues, and they would cite, like, one time when he was in the KHL, one of the coaches or something like that tried putting a hat on his head, and he, you know, had a scrum with him. He was a feisty goaltender, according to Shannon, who liked to get in fights and things like that. And, you know, that's what you saw. When they say anybody has anger management issues and that they're going to counseling or whatever for it on the television, and you only see those examples, you know they were a lot worse behind the scene. They were like Scott Steiners from WWF. They were probably unpleasant assholes to be around. And we live in a society where people don't want to question black people. They don't want to say anything negative about them because everyone's stepping on eggshells here. Everyone just wants to back away from the conversation because they've been pussy whipped by the Obama administration for 8 years. And I guess I don't blame them for having that mentality. I don't have it because I'm not going to get told what to do by anybody. And for me, this isn't a race thing. This is a me whipping your ass thing. And that's exactly how I feel about people who try to give me the shaft. Is like, I don't care what color you are. There's always more room on the friggin' train out the fucking town. Okay. So anyway, Ray Emery, being of darker complexion in the National Hockey League, for some people that's news. Because there just aren't that many black people, really. I mean, one of the more prominent NHL players that is black is PK Subban, and he's a lot blacker than Ray Emery, who still plays in the NHL for the Nashville Predators. He somewhat recently made it to the Stanley Cup Final, lost, yada yada yada, and he's fairly been out of the spotlight. He doesn't get talked about very much. He doesn't get the kind of attention he got in Montreal. He's an entertaining player to watch, and you know, that's for the most part all I really know about the guy. But Ray Emery, like, I'd heard stories of his anger management. Like, I heard things about his extravagant suits that he'd wear and things like that. And those things don't bother me. If people want to spend their money on that, that's fine. But the thing they don't talk about, and it's the same thing as football and basketball. I'm a Caucasian male. I don't like basketball or football, or American football, and, you know, soccer or football overseas, because I can't look at a black person and go, well, that could be me playing up there. It's not happening. And in football, predominantly, they're black people, and that's the same with basketball. And, you know, some people are going to go, well, that's racist if you're using that as a reason for not liking a sport. Yeah, why don't you try waking up? The world is racist, and people are prejudiced for all kinds of reasons, and in this day and age, people are prejudiced against white people that don't like people of color. That is a fact. And they're not actually any better of people. They're, you know, have many undesirable qualities about themselves. They've just shifted their discrimination onto new targets. And this goes both for men and women. You are not a racist just because you have sexual intercourse with someone of a different race. You're not. If you're a man, it's because you wanna stick it into something new and different. If you're a woman, you just want some dick. That's the bottom line, and it doesn't make you not a racist. And a lot of the times it's a power thing as well. It's like they use it as a way of increasing what they can do and giving phony promises to people of other races, knowingly or unknowingly, in the sense that they're to be treated fairly, blah blah blah. They're enforcing mainstream narrative, but mainstream narrative is controlled by the Illuminati, secret society, who are butchering people left, right, and center in Africa and in the Middle East and places like that. So no. You're just enforcing this illusion that everything is fine and that black people can be racist because of slavery. And they're allowed to have victimization because of slavery. Yeah, guess what? I ain't ever owned a slave. I don't want a slave. I can do things myself. And that's not who I am as a person. And honestly, as an involuntary celibate, and all the insults that have been hurled at me because of that, because people try to associate it with different things, and I'm like, no, I just can't get any action right now, and it's because the political system has inhibited me from doing that. It's nothing wrong with me. It's gone far past me at this point. It's more them protecting their political system at this point. But so unfortunately, I have to go to the internet to watch anything of sexual nature. Basically keep my components functional. You use it or you lose it. Okay, it's as simple as that. And unfortunately, the internet is very bad at perpetuating very negative stereotypes and very negative imagery. For one thing, cuckoldry. That's a word that's constantly used on the internet. Circumcision, that's another one. That's penis mutilation. Black men having sex with white women, that's also on there predominantly. A lot of that stuff is. And there's also a lot of gross stuff as well. And the internet's a screwed up place, and it really, really needs to be fixed. And you got to sift through a lot of garbage to find something even half worthwhile. And it's not indicative to anything. It's propaganda. It's meant to brainwash people who are young and foolish and don't know no better. Because I live in Vancouver. There's not a lot of black people here. There isn't. Making a video like this, I'm sure a black man or two could come out of the woodwork, and whatever white woman I was interested in, it doesn't matter which one, because of today's society now is structured, mob gang mentality. Surely enough, a man of different ethnicity will come along, and she'll pretend, if not actually be more interested in him than me, and I'm supposed to feel like a loser. And this is, after being involuntary celibate for all these years. So guess what? My patience is at an all-time low. And you may note that I am wearing a Philadelphia Flyers jersey, and I was a big-time fan of theirs way back in the day. So you can kind of guess the mentality I might have. Evolved a little bit, but more or less the same. And as I said, it is a racist thing. The world's a racist place, and I'm sick and tired of people, covering it up with, just like a sheet of paper or something like that, pretend it doesn't exist. All the racist things that black people do in other parts of the country. And however, somehow me talking negatively about black people in this sense, somehow I'm the bad guy, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to rationalize an irrational system. And it is an awkward subject, but it is the damn truth. And women or anybody, they are not getting an award from me. They're not getting praise. They're not getting anything for having sexual relations with someone of a different race. They're not going to. I'm going to pretend they don't even exist. And some people aren't going to like that kind of mentality from me. In fact, one time I did see a woman with a child of mixed origin, and I completely ignored her. I went, I don't have to pay attention to you. I'm on my way to go do my thing. I'm trying to do what's best in my life, and I didn't really think too hard of it. But I looked back, and because I chose not to look at her, she was sneering at me. I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are? Do you want the fucking Masterson trophy because you went with someone of a different race than you? Well, you're not getting it. And I say this because Ray Emery would have been one of those black guys who goes with a lot of white women. it would have been, you know, that Eddie Murphy joke that's going on around with Steven Seagal. If you've seen that cartoon short, it was hilarious, where he goes, "Hey man, where are all the white women at?" And guess what? Black men that behave like that, that gets old. It gets old very, very, very fast. And like, it doesn't even have to be a black person that does that. It's that kind of mentality, like a Quagmire from Family Guy type of mentality. You don't want a guy like that around. Like a guy like Quagmire, he had this, you know, famous feud with Brian, where he forbidden Peter and the rest of the guys from telling him anything about his life because he didn't like Brian for whatever reason. And it sounded like a real flimsy reason to me. Brian was one of the most likable characters on Family Guy. And like Quagmire was a total asshole about it. But you know, want to know something? Quagmire is the guy I can't stand. I cannot stand him. Some people think he's funny, and occasionally he is, but most of the time he isn't. Most of the time, like, every time he's gotten his ass kicked, I didn't feel bad for him, just because of his personality type. And the same thing goes for those black guys who think they're all that in a bag of potato chips, and because they have a lot of money and things like that. And then there were white women, or not even just white women, but other types of women, like Asian women, or Filipino women, or, you know, whatever, that are attracted to that. And somehow they all think they're going to get, you know, awards, they're going to get appreciated for what they did. No, you're not. And it's time for white men to stand up and tell them, look, you're not getting any bonus points with me by doing that. That's what you call bitchy behavior. And when women behave like that, give them the cold shoulder. They give you plenty of bullshit reasons for giving you the cold shoulder, so get lost. Why are you even here? And don't be fooled, because sometimes there are genuine women who do appreciate you. And there are women who, they go like, you know, bitch beast mode when they see you, and anything that you like, they come along and try to destroy it afterwards. And it's all this mentality, and it's like, those women, they're not getting rewarded either. I'm gonna find out. Like, it'll show in their personality exactly what type of person they are. And I mean, obviously these are all things, and this has happened at the NHL level. So guess what? There are probably a lot of people in the NHL who have harsher things to say about Ray Emery than me. And although what I've said is, you know, borderline unkind and, you know, a little bit racist, but it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter who you're having sexual relations with. If you're looking out for yourself, your best interest, all you've done is shifted your prejudice. And I'm saying, with all that, with all Ray Emery's bullshit, the fact that he didn't generate the kind of money he was supposed to by actually properly winning a Stanley Cup, along with his injuries, his legal problems, his mischief, and all that kind of stuff, it's no wonder that he just had to get away from it all. And I think, you know, them saying he drowned, I think it's a made-up story. I think it's fake news. You won't hear that often from many people, but that's what I believe. And black men drowning. You know how many times I've heard over the years of a black man drowning, and that's how what got him? I think that's more racist to say that. I mean, why didn't you just go ahead and say he was a heroin junkie and that's what killed him? Or, you know, the famous Dave Chappelle joke, when the police officers arrive and they find a black man, sprinkle some crack on him. You know, that was funny. I like Dave Chappelle. It's too bad the people were so mean to him, you know, for the years, and, you know, he went to Africa, and, you know, I still think he's a good guy, and his comedy routine, you know, he's missing, you know, his youthful vibrance that he used to have, and that's, you know, a real shame. And I think that is sadder than Ray Emery's fake death. I think Dave Chappelle, and the way he couldn't make his show the way he wanted to anymore, I think that is sadder than the fake news Ray Emery drowned in the harbor of Ontario. And the last time I made a video where I criticized the mainstream story, I had a goon come out of nowhere and go, "That's not the way it is." Shut up! You ain't proved nothing, and your persuasive skills are pathetic. And as I've said in other videos, guess what? Sure, say you're going to report me, say you're going to take down my video, that doesn't stop people from thinking somewhere similar along the lines as I have. And you can't silence that. And it doesn't matter how many times you come with one of those big clown, hammers, and you try to bop it into somebody's head, believe the stupid story, believe the stupid story. It just doesn't work when you get to a certain age. And the media straight up lies about so many things all the time that it is entirely plausible that Ray Emery's alive, breathing, and he's just somewhere else right now. And this is all assuming he doesn't have a bunch of enemies in the European hockey leagues that he played in. I'm sure he's got enemies there too, because of his personality. And one of the mainstream opinions in today's society that they just keep hammering home, and then you get punks who are from a different generation who think that they can explain the facts of life to you, and you're just like, no, you're a fucking idiot. And I don't have to believe your narrative, your version of things that you've been told to think, because you don't know how to think for yourself anymore, or ever did. And it's just like, no, I don't believe your story, and I don't have to believe your story. And, like I said, some people get really mad when you do that. But you go ahead and you get mad. It's not going to bother me one little bit. I'm telling it like it is. And, there's just too many people who benefit from this kind of story, this kind of mainstream narrative, and the response from the public of this mainstream narrative of this story. And it's all bullshit. And they get this sanctimonious, they think they're better than everyone else kind of mentality, and they're not. They've just shifted their assholeness to a different direction. They're not more intelligent, they're not better people, and kindly, please, fuck off my channel, okay? I don't want to deal with people like you. And, I haven't got any supporting evidence that Ray Emery did not drown. I don't have, him boarding a plane, or something like that, footage. However, do you have footage that they recovered his body from the harbor? No, you don't. And not only that, the story sounds a bit off, because they were saying it took 6-7 hours to locate him. 6-7 hours. What? Where did he get lost? In a thunderstorm or something? There was no thunderstorm. And clearly he wasn't caught on anything, like, a rock or something like that. It was, he went in there and he drowned, presumably, and that's just what happened. And it's like, well, I don't know if I believe that. I think it's more plausible him and his money went AWOL. I think that's more likely, and I wouldn't blame Ray Emery for going down that road. So I'm going to end this video on a positive note. I'm going to say, Ray Emery, I believe he's alive. I believe he's doing well, considering. I mean, he's always going to have to look over his shoulder. There are people like that who made a lot of money, made a lot of enemies, got to look over their shoulder all the time. And, yeah, so I don't think Ray Emery's dead. And I'd very much like to see an intelligent response explaining to me why I'm wrong. I don't want to hear someone just go, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Because that's what I always hear. And I'm like, where's your proof? And then they go to a link that says, oh, and I'm like, hey, stupid, that could have been written anytime by anybody. It's not proof of anything. They don't like it when you say that. They hate it when you say that. Anyway, positive note, ending the video. Ray Emery, I believe, is alive and well somewhere. He probably ran off of his fiance and his money. Yeah, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. And in case you're wondering whose name is on the back of this, it's Daniel Briere. I would never wear a Ray Emery jersey. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a good one.